What's up YouTube? It's PJ here from the Shuffle Squad, and today we're going to be covering one of my favorite cards out of the standard meta that doesn't really see a whole lot of play, unfortunately. But we're going to be talking about Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR. Now, this card has made for a super aggressive deck with its ability to spread damage counters across all of its Pokemon and then doing huge damage output from its attack. The downside is that it does put damage counters on itself in order to do those bigger attacks, and in turn it does have a lower HP compared to a lot of other V-Stars and V-Max Pokemon in the meta. Recently, I did have a pretty decent run in an online tournament with this deck, and I'm really excited to show you the build that I've come up with here, and maybe you can take this, modify it to your liking, and play it at a local tournament or an online tournament coming up. What we're going to do in this video here is show you how Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR is played, and then talk about some of the cards in the list. If you want to check it out, stay tuned for the rest of this video. We'll see you soon.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Ultimate Guard, PTCGL Store, and Atlas TCG. Check out the description below for discount codes and affiliate links to support the squad. Now it's time for the video.
Alright, the first card in this list we're going to talk about is the Hisuian Zoroark V, and it's the basic Pokemon of the line here, and what it does is it has the attack Void Return that can attack for 0 energy. It does 30 damage to the opponent's active Pokemon, then can switch onto the bench if you'd like. If you have a basic Pokemon there, you can most likely put up one of your single prize Pokemon in case it gets knocked out, or even Gengar is pretty good here to switch into, because if that gets knocked out, it can put itself onto the bench again. The next card we'll talk about here is the Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR, which is the rock star of the deck. Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR does attack with Ticking Curse for 2 colorless energy, 50 damage times the amount of Pokemon on your side of the field that have damage counters on it. Now, usually what we're going to do here is just put the double turbo energy on it and just swing in for 1 energy attachment for turn, and then we have so many ways to get damage counters on your Pokemon. Now, it does also have the Phantom Star V-Star ability, where you get to basically use Professor's Research twice in a turn, where you're going to discard your hand and draw a new hand of 7 cards. The next thing we're going to do here is talk about some of our support Pokemon. We have the Bidoof here that's got the ability, prevents damage done to it while it's on the bench. These are really good for the Greninja plays that might happen to you. So let's take a look at what it evolves into. And we have the Bibarel here with the Industrious Incisors, able to draw your hand up to 5, which is really good in a lot of cases, especially since Iono is heavily played in the meta right now. The biggest support Pokemon in this whole deck is the Gengar here from the Lost Origin set. Netherworld Gate is able to come out of the discard pile with this card and pop it right onto your bench and put 3 damage counters on it, which is great because that's what you really want to do in this deck. That's your main goal, is to put damage counters all over all of your Pokemon. So with this ability, it really helps because you're using things like Ultra Ball in this deck, and you're using things like Research, the Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR ability, all to just thin out your deck, thin out your hand, get things into the discard pile that you want there, like this Gengar. Talking about a couple of the techs in this deck here, we do have the Klefki, which is great to just lock up your opponent's basic Pokemon. Then we have the Radiant Alakazam. If they are putting damage counters on their own Pokemon or they're getting hit, you can move those damage counters around with Radiant Alakazam. So this card is great in this deck. It's been very cute in some matchups. I really enjoy this card. We do have the brand new Spiritomb here that came out of Paldea Evolved. This card is able to shut off all basic V Pokemon. So if somebody's trying to get tricky with a Lumineon V, or maybe just trying to set up their board with their Genesect V, then they're going to have a problem doing so because Spiritomb is out on your field. We'll talk about the supporter line here. We do play Boss's Orders, Cheren's Care, Iono, Professor's Research, and Raihan in this deck. So lots of different supporter cards and lots of different ways that you can utilize them, which we'll go over in the gameplay. Another huge part of this deck is Gapejaw Bog, because you're putting this down, and anytime your opponent puts basic Pokemon down, or better yet, you put basic Pokemon down, you're going to be doing damage to them, which helps you set up and also helps kind of tick away at your opponent's HP. Just in case you thought you'd be funny and try to path us, and maybe even put your Duraludon VMAX out on the field, we do have Path to the Peak here to stop any ability from any rule box Pokemon, which is really great because Gardevoir seems to be one of the best decks in the format right now. It does shut off Gardevoir EX. Now, Super Odd is proving to be a really interesting card in this list. I have really enjoyed using it. You're able to recover your basic energy cards and also some of the Pokemon that you'll need for the late game that you may have had to discard in the early game, and then you're able to draw back into them when you're using your draw supporters or your Bibarel. Now, the last card I do want to talk about in this list, mind you can check out the list down in the description below, is the Damage Pump. Damage Pump is a great addition to the Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR deck, where you're able to modify where your damage counters are on your field. Make sure you're utilizing this in the best way possible, because you can move up to 2 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to another Pokemon in any way that you choose. So Damage Pump is one of the best, if not the best card in the deck to help you set up for those big attacks. Now, as a bonus to this deck, I did want to talk about this card in the list. Panic Mask is a really great counter to decks like Gardevoir, and I really feel like the Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR deck lacks a great matchup against Gardevoir. It is pretty close, but I think with a card like this, we can really swap out something like, say, a Manaphy if your meta is heavily flooded with Gardevoir EX decks. Panic Mask is great because they really have to modify how they're placing their energy cards, because it does put damage counters on them, and if they have 40 HP or less left, usually they're not able to knock out your Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR, which is pretty good because we really like to only put 10 damage counters on those VSTAR Pokemon at a time. So Panic Mask is a great swap out, and I've been swapping it for Manaphy in this list too. Alright, let's take a look at our opening hand. We have 2 Hisuian Zoroarks and a Bidoof and the Gapejaw Bog and an Energy, so really great opening hand. We're playing against Cheren PAL. They've got their Battle VIP Pass, so that's really good. They got a second Battle VIP Pass, probably the best starting hand you can ever see from a Cheren PAL list. All of this is very, very good. They're drawing cards with concealed cards. They're really getting a setup board, so it's a little scary. We do have to rely on our V-Star ability here. So we've got the Radiant Alakazam. We're going to put everything down that we can here this turn and damage it. That's really what our game plan is. These first few turns is to just get some Pokemon down. Now we can go ahead and get Klefki out, and that will shut off things like their like their basic Pokemon, Cheren PAL, and their Radiant Greninja. So we're just going to use our free attack here and switch into the Klefki. Alright, so now we'll see what they have here. They do get rare candy right into the Basque Caliber, and they're just setting up an optimal board. Like I said, they're not able to use the ability to search out energy, but it seems like they have just enough energy to use here and set themselves up for a really nice second and third turn potentially after the fact. They're putting down Lost City and using a Judge. We only had 2 cards in hand, so Judge is kind of good for us, and they judge us into a Bibarel, which was really, really good. We get to bump the stadium so they don't Lost City all of our Pokemon, which could be really bad in the long game here. They're starting to set up another energy on the Pelt Gate in the back. They do have to waste 2 energy cards here, so something to note is that they're just blowing 2 energy cards to knock out a single prize Pokemon in this matchup. So sets up math pretty good for us, because they do have to knock out 3 of our V-Star or V Pokemon in order to win the game completely. So now we're using Iono to draw 6 brand new cards, and we still have Bibarel. We're going to use Capturing Aroma probably to thin the deck a little bit. I don't think that we're... Yeah, we can put Hisuian Zoroark down, but let's thin out Spiritomb. We're going to use Ultra Ball to get rid of the Spiritomb and the Escape Rope. We won't need those this game. We do get the Hisuian Zoroark. We've got our V-Star ability still, so we can go ahead and use that. Let's use Gapejaw Bog here, and then Industrious Incisors first. we can go ahead and put down the Bibarel. We're going to go ahead and put down our Bibarel here with Gapejaw Bog. Now, we can use our Pal Pad here, and I think that's exactly what we should do, and put some cards back in. We're going to go ahead and use the V-Star ability. We're able to place another Pokemon down for some more damage output, and before we do the attack, let's move some damage counters onto this Palkia here. And what that's going to do is just get us set up for the next turn. Now, we're going to have to go and prize map ourselves at 2 prizers for 3 turns. So we have that 2 prizer, then we'll have the Palkia in the back here, and then potentially another Chen Pal later in the game, and that's going to give us all 6 prize cards. We might have to do some funny things with this to get a couple of 2 prize knockouts with the movement of damage counters from the Radiant Alakazam too. So putting that damage when we know we're going to knock out the active Pokemon is a key play in this deck, and how you're going to play around a lot of things that don't necessarily perform well against your deck in the meta is just setting up those double knockouts or 3 prize turns, 4 prize turns, things like that with the Radiant Alakazam. Now, they are putting damage on themselves, which is another key here, that they are not able to bump the Gapejaw Bog in time for setting up their board, and putting another Baxcalibur down when they're scared that we're going to knock out their one engine to put energy on the field, just to make their deck actually function after this turn. They do get their V-Star down, and they're able to use that this turn, as well as just plant energy with the Baxcalibur. We have to take a look at our board state. We do have Gengar in hand. We have Research, Iono, Damage Pump. All of these things are great. We need an energy card, however. They do bump our Stadium, which isn't awful because we have enough things to do the damage movement. We have Damage Pump. We've got the Gengar, again, in case they do knock out one of our Pokemon this turn, which most likely they will be able to do because of the V-Star ability on their board state. So if we look at what we need, again, we just need to draw into an energy next turn and we'll be just fine. So it looks like this Chen Pal here is going to do what Chen Pal does and do 300 damage to our active Pokemon. They're going to take 2 prizes. So now they're still at 3 prizes. We're at 4. We can take another knockout here as long as we're, again, able to draw into some energy. So let's start thinning some things. Let's get rid of this Damage Pump. We won't really need it. We can always put Gengar on the field. Let's get our Bibarel to draw some more cards. We'll go ahead and use Capturing Aroma. We flip Tails. We don't need anything yet. We're going to go ahead and put Gapejaw Bog down. Let's do Super Rod. Make sure that we draw into our Hisuian Zoroark V-Star. We don't need anything else. And just putting that in there. Okay, that's not great. We want to save our Iono, and we want to save our boss and Serena. So let's just Iono all of these things to the bottom of the deck. Maybe we'll draw into some good cards. We did draw into an energy card, but unfortunately not the right one. We're just going to try to thin some more so Bibarel can do Bibarel things and just draw some cards. So that's good too. We can just use Damage Pump here and move some damage from 1 to this because they won't snipe our bench most likely. Okay, we get a secondary V-Star. So we did draw the V-Stars, which is great, but we didn't get the energy cards that we need. What I think we're going to do is try to set up for a knockout, even though they're going to take another 2 prize knockout on our side of the board. They are going to have to draw enough energies to knock out our Pokemon, which it is unfortunate that Hisuian Zoroark has such low HP. They are going to only have to hit 250 damage this turn. Now, if we're doing the math correctly, they do need 5 energy cards. So this Irida is probably going to get them something like a super energy retrieval, I would assume. That's what they have to rely on, and that's exactly what they do get. Here comes their super energy retrieval. They're just grabbing some energy out of the deck since their V-Star ability is used. That puts them at a total of 6 energy cards that they can play this turn. Really great for them because they're able to swing that perfect number into us to take that 2 prize turn. It's a little scary because they will only have to knock out 1 more Pokemon. So we might have to do some tricky things where we move damage off of the Gengar here in a way that we aren't going to lose the game next turn. But they are using a lot of resources. They have to rely on super energy retrieval next turn also. I know that their deck does play 4 Ionos, or not 4 Ionos, but 4 Iridas rather, and they can really draw into things. It's really unfortunate that our Raihan happened there instead of when we needed it with the energy and discard. So we need to draw into an energy card this turn so we can do damage pump. We are going to move this over here. Maybe we can draw into energy off a prize card that we take with a movement. Okay, so we don't need that. We're going to have to thin out some cards that we don't need this turn. We definitely don't need any of those Pokemon. We can Industrious Incisors for 2 more. Ugh, that feels so bad. Let's just use Serena. I think, okay, so we did get the energy card. That's great too. We saved the Raihan so we could always set up for next turn. We did take our 3 prize turn here. So we took our other 2 cards. We have 1 prize left. They have to rely on getting that super energy retrieval in order to do what they need to do here and knock out our active Pokemon. So in this case, we don't want to send up our single prize Pokemon. That will just get knocked out. The only thing that we would have to do is just make sure that after they're doing what they're doing here with this Irida, let's see if they get super energy retrieval. Okay, so they get escape rope, so they're going to try to trick us into sending up one of our single prize Pokemon. So what we're going to have to do now is just send up this Hisuian Zoroark and hope that they don't have superior energy retrieval in hand. If they do, it's pretty much sealing the deal for us. But if they don't have superior energy retrieval, this is only going to get 2 energy cards. They have 1 in hand. They still need 4 energy total in order to get a knockout on our Hisuian Zoroark. That's the downside with using Chien-Pao over using the Palkia. I'm not exactly sure why they did that, but I mean, as far as it goes, they're still relying on quite a bit. There's enough resources in the deck that they could just honestly draw right into it. So there's no energy left in the deck. When Chien-Pao went to look for it, there wasn't anything in there. They really don't have much. I think that they're just going to rely on us not being able to retreat. They're going to heal off the damage from this Chien-Pao with a switch cart and then just go straight into the Palkia that has a little bit more HP. We're going to plant down this energy, evolve, and then what we can do is just swing for 280 damage because we're all damaged, and that is the last prize of the game. And there you have it, everybody. That is Zoroark VSTAR in a nutshell. How it works, some of the deck list ideas that I came up with kind of panned out in my favor a lot. So as far as it goes, if you want to check out this list or use it on your own, you can definitely check down in the description for the list to copy and paste into PTCGL, or just making paper cards and bring it to your locals, or maybe if you really like it, you can bring it to a tournament. Either way, let us know down in the comments what you thought about this deck and the gameplay here, and we'll catch you on the next video.
You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.